Welcome back to Opinionated. I'm your host, Jules, and I apologize for the background noise. We are recording this on the go again because, once again, I could not find a slow time this week to settle down and record this podcast. So, I am recording it today from a bus stop on my way to work.
That's my opinion!
But I'm about to say something that I think every woman in my peer group in her early to mid 20s needs to hear. And that is that you do not need more friends. You need friends who are not male-centered. And before anybody gets defensive, again, this is not about hating men. We love men. We love love. We love healthy relationships. And I hope everybody listening to this finds a partner that makes them feel safe and respected and adored. Because if we're really getting into it, hating men equates to holding men at a lower standard, which results in holding women to a higher standard, which is, again, a misogynist, patriarchal concept that men are able to get by achieving and putting forward less effort while women are putting forward more effort and still being criticized for it. So we don't hate all men. We do hate the patriarchy and a good amount of men. We hate a good amount of men. But anyway, that being said, there is a huge difference between loving men and your male friends and centering your entire worldview around them. Because the people that you surround yourself with will either expand your standards or slowly convince you to lower them. And I think the perfect example of this is everything that we are watching unfold between Melanie and Sincere after movie night on Love Island literally right now. Now, obviously, we're watching an edited television show, and we've talked about reality TV on here before. We did a whole episode about it. So none of us really know these people personally. We're just reacting to what we've been shown. But watching these conversations made something finally click for me, I think. And that is that the girls have been repeating this idea that because Sincere chose Melanie, she owes it to him to hear him out and work through it and give him another chance. Like fucking Anaya's whole, if I want to be Team Sincere, I'm going to be Team Sincere. And I just kept thinking, when the fuck did being chosen become the prize? Because they've literally said it multiple times themselves. Being chosen isn't the prize, being respected is. You know, Sincere told Melanie one thing, told Soul another thing, if not the exact same thing, told Anaya something completely different. And for some reason, the only person who was upset about all of that was Corbin. And I think what's not clicking for a lot of people who are watching that I'm hearing and seeing from online, and even the people in the villa, is that the issue isn't who he chose. It's that multiple women were hearing completely different versions of the truth. All of the guys were getting a different truth. Sincere was giving a fucking fourth truth in his confessional. I don't even think he understands that he is a pathological liar. And whether it comes from immaturity or fear of conflict or, like he's saying, people pleasing, regardless, it's creating the same result, and that is that nobody knows what's real with him. And trust cannot exist in friendships or relationships if the reality keeps changing. And one thing that Melanie has consistently been saying that really stood out to me is that he doesn't deserve me. And I feel like that sentence is really important. She keeps saying it over and over to her friends because somewhere along the way, everybody around her started to convince her that she should focus on whether or not he deserves another chance instead of whether or not she deserves peace and like an actual connection out of this experience. And those are completely different questions. You know, I feel like Anaya and Kata are all thinking, how can we save this relationship? And for some reason, Permita and Corbin are the only people actually saying, is this relationship good for you? And if your girlfriends aren't asking the second question, then you really need to think about if they're actually your girlfriends. You know, the thing that really fascinated me about the voting and karaoke night is that for some reason, the only person that gave Melanie what seemed like the clearest perspective was Permita, who isn't even close to her. But she spent time with Sincere in Casa Amor, and she saw one version of him there. And then she came back to the villa and saw that he's presenting himself completely differently. And instead of romanticizing it, she looked at the situation and was like, this is toxic. And she said something that we have talked about on here so many times. I believe it so truly in my heart, and that is that love is not always enough. And I know that that's not a romantic thing to say. We want to believe that love conquers all, but it doesn't. Love without trust will ruin your entire life. It will make you feel anxious and confused and ultimately exhausted. And you can absolutely love someone and still not be compatible with someone and recognize that they are unhealthy for you. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to leave those situations. And I wish more women talked about what happens when you love someone who is deeply insecure, because insecureness doesn't always look like shyness, especially in a heteronormative relationship with a man. It can look like control. It can look like needing constant reassurance. It can look like changing your personality depending on who you're talking to. And sometimes, like in Sincere's case, it can look like telling everybody exactly what they want to hear because you're terrified that they won't like what you can actually provide for them. Dating someone who's deeply insecure very often looks like them making promises that sound incredible in the moment but never match your needs or their actions. And very often it results in one or both parties keeping your options emotionally open until the last possible second, and it leads to cheating and dishonesty. So we're gonna go over some signs that you might be in one of these types of relationships. And one of the biggest signs I feel is that you slowly start making yourself smaller. Not because somebody is explicitly telling you to, but because it feels easier than constantly managing somebody else's emotions. You know, like you stop celebrating your wins, you start over-explaining yourself and apologizing for things that are really just you existing. You really just start dimming your light, because every time you start to shine, your confidence starts triggering somebody else's insecurity, and they're interpreting that confidence as a threat. Because an insecure partner isn't going to rise to meet you ever. They're going to maybe unintentionally ask you to come down to their level so that they don't have to feel uncomfortable. And I don't know Melanie personally, I don't know Sincere personally, but I do know this. That is that you can physically see when somebody is carrying emotional stress. Compare how she looked at the beginning of the season to now. She looks like she has been fucking through it. You can tell that she is anxious, she is less carefree, the light has drained from her eyes. That isn't proof of why somebody feels that way, but it is a reminder that unhealthy relationships often show up on your body before you admit them with your words. Your body will reject these relationships before your brain can catch up, because stress changes your sleep, your appetite, your energy. And that is why your friends matter so much. Having healthy friends is so important, because healthy friends and healthy friendships will notice when you begin to disappear. But your male-centered friends only notice if you're still together, you know, and those are not the same thing. Male-centered friends aren't necessarily trying to hurt you most of the time, but that girl genuinely believes that the relationship is the prize. So when you are unhappy, she will say things like, every relationship has his problems. Just hear him out. Like, he chose you. He came back. Don't just throw away what you have. He loves you. And maybe. But the question that she will rarely ask is he good for you? Because her own self-worth has always been tied to male validation. So of course, she's going to encourage you to keep chasing yours. And it's not because she's malicious, but because she genuinely believes that that is how women get their happy ending. She thinks security comes from keeping a man. She doesn't realize that security comes from keeping yourself. So something I want all the divas listening to this to take away from this episode is that somebody choosing you is not evidence that you are compatible. It is not evidence that they truly care about you, that they want what is best for you. And it does not mean that they will change and start treating you well. Being chosen is the starting line, not the finish line. The real question is, do they respect you? Do they tell the truth when it is inconvenient? Can you trust their actions more than their words? And do they celebrate your growth instead of competing for it? Our biggest one of the day is, do you feel more like yourself when you are with them or less? This goes for relationships, yes, but this also goes for friendships. Your friends should be setting the bar for your relationships. If you are not in healthy friendships, you will not be in healthy relationships. So protect your peace, protect your standards, and protect the version of yourself that you know deserves more than to simply just be chosen. Because the right people, romantic partners and friends alike, they won't just choose you. They're going to respect you enough that you never have to question whether or not they actually do.